So I've got a little update from Cliff High, halfpasthuman.com webbot, and it's almost like a piece of the report that he threw on the website. That's an addition to the report. It's not very long, so I'm just going to read it. This has to do with summer, northern hemisphere, time to event forecasts from the data used in the last report. June 7, 8th, 9th. Economic and political scandal surfaces in the USA. Temporal echoes show this scandal will track over June/July with unexpected events within the cult of Rome, aka the Vatican. Expect secrets to be revealed in both the USA and Vatican scandals that will not only shock but will horrify. The data indicates that communications between the elite or cabal members will be intercepted and the real leaks will be viral within hours. This is indicated to lead to a global constipation or blockage of the financial flows. This blockage or constipation will begin apparently on June 3rd, late in the evening, Pacific Coast time, North American continent, at about 9:18 p.m. This blockage is showing as persisting and growing through to exposure via rupture on June 7th, 8th, or 9th. And again, when he gives a date, it's always plus or minus a few days. This constipation and rupture through is described as a plank in the gallows for the banksters. This economic scandal will not be the breaking point for the global economy. Will not be the breaking point. That comes later in the month. The data points to the beginning of the Icelander's disease. Additional note, from the viewpoint of the bankers, spreading to Spain. I think I know where this is going. And by the way, I haven't even read this yet. I'm reading it, right now for the first time. The data indicates that the Spanish populace, or let me back up. The Spain, that's later this month. The data points to the beginning of the, quote, Icelander's disease. That's actually a keyword, webbot keyword here. And he's saying that's what the banker's point of view would like to call it. Because if you recall, in Iceland, they told the bankers to go pound sand. They literally fled the country. The corrupt politicians tried to get some laws passed so that the people would be on the hook for the banker bailouts. It failed twice. The president, thank God he's a beautiful human being, vetoed it and went to a national vote both times, and both times was voted down by the people, and that was the end of it. They finally wiped out that debt, and now Iceland has paid back its IMF loan well in advance of when it was due, and has now flipped the switch to prosperous. Has all kind of trade agreements with Asia, India, Asian countries, and India, etc. So the bankers are going to use the word, or not necessarily use it, but in their view, oh great, now Spain's got Icelander's disease. Oh great, now Greece has Icelander's disease. In other words, they're catching on in this disease. It's a disease to the bankers because they don't get their way and they just wipe out the debt because it wasn't their debt to begin with, the people's debt. So there was an old movie with Sylvester Stallone called Cobra. I think it was called Cobra or The Cobra. And he gets on a little PA in the grocery store, and he's talking to some bad guy that he's about to take care of. And he says, "You're the disease, and I'm the cure." And that just stuck out here because it's not the Icelanders' disease, the bankers and their systems the disease. In Iceland, what they did is the cure. They didn't have to pick up a gun. They didn't have to shoot anybody. They didn't have to set any buildings on fire. They didn't have to make threats to politicians or bankers or get violent. Nothing. Now, having said that, if their president was a standard president like we have, or any other country has for the most part, and when I say standard, meaning he's for the bankers and the politicians and the corporations, that would be a standard politician. He's not, thank God. But if he was, we wouldn't be talking about Iceland right now. It'd be another same old story. They'd probably be back into debt somehow, forced to pay that banker debt off. And it would probably ultimately lead to violence and some kind of revolutionary change later on, which is what history shows. So, having said that, let me get back to this freaking report. The data points to the beginning of the Icelanders' disease spreading to Spain, Greece, and Italy. The Spain references point to a person of historical pride as being the populace's symbol as they engage their oppressors. The data indicates Spanish populace will be successful and do it with flair, F-L-A-I-R, and passion. The data suggests that restraint will prevail in at least one of the eruptions of Icelander disease, and that financial oppressors who are captured, beaten, stripped, and paraded near naked / bruised / bloodied will not be killed by the mob, but rather will be released in such a manner that the image will become the most viewed to its time image on earth. It's fixing to become the most viewed image of this time to its time on earth. So what this is telling me is Spain's going to say, why are we doing this? What the hell are we doing? Just do what Iceland did. It worked flawlessly. Remember what I said in a few videos, several videos ago? Nobody on TV, no news, no person on the sidelines even that can get a second on the news has said, hey, guys, I've got a question. Why don't they just do what Iceland did? Cut the cameras, turn off the lights. Can't say that. Right, that's why, because they're not going to dare have someone on say that. And I mentioned it back then. That's all it takes to fix this. It's basically Jubilee. What's wrong with that? Wipe it all out and start over. Plain and simple. So what this is saying is someone, whether it's a politician, a banker, someone up there in the status level, is going to be captured, beaten and stripped, and paraded near naked. They won't be killed, but will be released in such a manner that the image becomes the most viewed image on earth. Next, June 27th, 28th, 29th. Again, roughly. Unexpected military events put pressure on populace of the USA that will bring preppers into positions of responsibility that will persist for months, if not years. Now that's a hell of a statement. I'm going to have to read that one again. Unexpected military events put pressure on populace in the USA populace, that will bring preppers into positions of responsibility that will persist for months, if not years. The unexpected military events will continue into 2013, growing into a dominating liability for the elite, or officialdom, globally, he says, not merely just here in the USA. So these unexpected military events will continue into 2013, growing into a dominating liability for officialdom, not just USA officialdom, but globally, and he's calling it ISIS-RAEL, ISIS-RA-EL, which I'm assuming is Israel. The good news is that the scandals from earlier in June are escalated to such an extent by the conditions on the ground that secrets revealed goes bat crap globally, or goes ape globally, you could say, and central bankers or banksters and their institutions begin the process of failing. Again, sad to say, but a good temporal marker will be the identities of those pro-offered victims of the unexpected military events. These victims will have their day and that for each of them, the data suggests that thousands of the guilty/collaborators will perish in flames and through, it says dissolving, question mark. So karma rules after all. The data sets are clearly stating that whatever the events of late June are, that the pivotal point for continuation of central banks and New World Order and global warfare is breached in these last 3 days. There are very small levels of visibility on the breach of stability for existence of central banks, so it is unlikely that the populace will be aware of the significant shift. As the unexpected military events are going to dominate the consciousness, the data flow suggests that we will only be able to ascertain the shift point in analysis from the near future when the central banks have all failed. The data suggests that unexpected military events can be used as temporal marker for social unrest. Additional note, in so many forms as to not be easily encapsulated. So let me read it without the note. The data suggests that the unexpected military events can be used as a temporal marker for social unrest here in the USA. The officialdom can be expected to use their usual toolkit. Many traps for the unwary. Next, July 4th through 10th, plus or minus a few days. Unexpected occurrences at sea, under lands, and in atmosphere will rapidly escalate over mere hours. Global concerns about Fukushima catastrophe is what he ends that with. No supporting data for a natural earthquake. So there's no data for a natural earthquake. Large numbers of data sets showing that despite the many ongoing military concerns, much of the planetary populace focus will be on Japan and Fukushima from July 10th through to December 14th. July 17, 18, and 19th, a hiatus or breathing space in the ongoing military and economic warfare against the oppressors of humans is indicated to occur briefly as some space-based intrusions capture attention. That does not mean an alien's going to land or anything like that, but it could be, hey, there's something going on in space with the sun, reaction, something's going on, has our attention. Don't know what it is. Then again, it could be a bunch of UFOs flying around. I mean, who knows? So, a hiatus breathing space in the ongoing military and economic warfare against the oppressors of humans is indicated to occur briefly as some space-based intrusions capture attention. This is not showing as being a global phenomenon, but rather indicated for specific subsets of the populous US of A. My thinking on these subsets is that it may be military or officialdom or the powers that be. The focused sets are so small, data sets are so small and have very low levels of visibility in the mainstream media, yet are somehow indicated to be responsible for what can only be described as a temporary hold in aggressive acts. This may or could be referring to the shadow government that is involved with the alien agenda here on Earth. It may be that the data is pointing to these fellows having their attention riveted elsewhere. While there are repeated sets in support of this from space-based data, there are no indicators of a threat to the general populace. There are some small hints of threats to the powers that be from this, but nothing revealing in the data. The aware observer will wish to see where the powers that be have their eyes focused during this time. July 31st through August 9th, plus or minus 9 days. The bottom becomes visible off in the near distance to the officialdom minions. The data suggests that officialdom here in the USA starts crapping the small sharp ones as the new dawn reveals the chaos and smoking rubble of their hopes of sustaining the economic illusion until the time of the political illusion or election. The data sets are pointing toward an understanding from officialdom that will come in the early morning light during a horrific night here in the USA that is further described as changing the game as well as affecting the Olympic Games. As an aside, it warms the cockles to know that what we do here in the USA causes such vexation to queen/royal bloodlines in Celtic lands that images of spittle and yellow eyes will be visible. Don't think I can really interpret that one other than just read it. August 12th dash, like he's got, date range. Now it just says August 12th through planned. So he says August 12th or 12th through planned radiation event for the Gulf of Persia and the Indian/Southern Oceans. In the elite's ongoing war by proxy through U.S. and other navies or militaries against their undersea alien enemies here on Earth, their plan to get a 3-for-1 hit by having some fake Iranians, actually the Mossad agents from Israel, come out of nowhere and sink 4 U.S. nuclear reactors into the Persian Gulf. Keyword, they'll blame it on Iran or some other enemy. It won't be. It'll be who it always is, which is Israel, our buddy, who is also behind 9/11, who is also behind the Gulf of Tonkin incident, and I have no idea whatever else they've been behind. So let this stick out. And again, I'm reading it now, and because my past experience with the Webbot report, I've seen things happen a whole year or so later than the dates that they gave. Yet when it happened, it was just a punch in the mouth. It was so perfect. So, except for the time, obviously. So just keep this stuff in mind, as I always give my disclaimer about that. And don't bank on it happening this year precisely when it says, although it very well could. So, it's looking like there's going to be a false flag attack again. It'll come out of nowhere. It'll sink 4 ships with nuclear reactors on them, some kind of military ships of ours, into the Persian Gulf. This will be done by our buddies, the Mossad of Israel, or agents, etc., pretending, it says here, pretending to be Iranians, actually hitting the target that was painted on the Enterprise. It says this will be done by the Mossad agents pretending to be Iranians, actually hitting the target painted on the Enterprise. Hitting the target painted on the Enterprise. We do have a ship called the USS Enterprise, I believe. And there's a target painted on the ship. If there's a target painted on the ship, and someone ends up having a video of this, and that's where it struck, but the target wasn't there from day one of the ship, and it was only recently added, you're going to have to ask yourself, as crazy as it may sound, there's no way we would do that to our own ships or even have our buddy Israel do it. We wouldn't do that. Well, for one, we've already done it. 9/11, the first Gulf War, the fake incubator stories, the USS Liberty from the 60s, I believe it was late 60s, or sometime in the 60s, I don't remember the exact year. We were told the bad guys shot, torpedo boats at our USS flagship, the Liberty ship, and turns out it was Israel again. 2 of their fighter planes did it. We lied to our people here to escalate the war and make a bunch more money for the war profiteers. Of course, that was so long ago, nothing you can do about it now that the facts have come out. So, if that happened then, it happened on the Lusitania. The Lusitania sank way back, right? We're talking with Germany, World War with Germany. And they said, we know you put munitions on board that ship, even though it was a passenger ship, and that's why we sunk it. No, we did not. I already told you this story before. National Geographic had divers go down not that long ago, a few years ago, to put it to rest. And guess what they found? Chock full of massive, large munitions inside the hull of the ship, underwater to this day. So now what? So Germany was right, and why they sunk it. That act alone drug us into the war. We were not wanting to get in the war. The people didn't want to be involved. Just let it go. And then they said women and children, women and children. All the headlines. If you can go look up online and see if you can find some old headlines from back then. I guarantee you'll find some. Women and children on board the Lusitania. Women and children. You're always going to hear the words women and children. When you hear the words women and children, red light, sirens should go off in your head. This is propaganda. And guess what I've been hearing all day today and yesterday? Women and children attacked in Syria. Women and children. Mass casualties. Women and children. But what about that photo you guys said was the mass casualties? That was from 9 years ago in Iraq. And the journalist who took that photo has come out now and said, why are you using my photo for your propaganda? That was from 9 years ago in Iraq. Had nothing to do with Syria. Oh, sorry about that. Let's remove the story now off the BBC website. Oh, okay. Women and children. Women and children. See how they like to play games with your mind? Because automatically you would say, well, if there really is a slaughtering of women and children, then we can't just stand here. Who cares about the UN and that Russia and China won't agree on the UN Council to allow us and everyone, the UN, to attack Syria? Who cares? We've got to stand up and take on this. As John McCain said the other day, we may have to bypass the UN Security Council and just go in there ourselves. We can't let these people suffer. You war dog scum piece of crap. You lying sack of garbage. It's not what they're telling us. There are no women and children. If there are, you could be rest assured it's our buddies again, whether it's Blackwater mercenaries, the Mossad from Israel, or some terrorist group that we're paying, such as Al-Qaeda. It's our list. We created it, and we've used them already. We used them already in Libya, and there's no doubt in my mind we're going to be using them in Syria if we haven't already, and they will do the killing and say, no, it was the government. Look what the government did. Look what they did to these people. No, it was your terrorist friends that we just paid for. And as Lindsey Williams said, we're going to put the Muslim Brotherhood in every one of these countries that gets overthrown that we actively started the campaign to overthrow. It just looks like it's natural from the people. And all the stuff I'm reading the other day, that elections are going on in Egypt, and guess who one of the top two guys is? We're not sure who's going to win. It's so close. One's the Muslim Brotherhood, and one's some other guy that was the old party that got thrown out in Egypt. Imagine that. No, what are the chances of the Muslim Brotherhood that Lindsey Williams said would be given these countries could by chance be one of the top two contenders? You don't suppose he's going to win, do you? Probably not. So anyways, that's the end of the story. There's just a few more sentences here. I'll read it to you. So get ready for a false flag attack. It'll involve some of our ships going down into the Persian Gulf. This will be done by the Mossad agents pretending to be Iranians, actually hitting the target painted on the Enterprise. This is planned to be mission accomplished, while they, the powers that be, think we will all be watching their head games in the city, London. Watch for the financial records destruction angle to their upcoming events. Crap don't work well for these folks, and as humans know, plans aft gang agley. Plans aft gang agley. Not sure what that means. So ahead of the head games in the city of London, that tells me the Olympic Games, city of London. Watch for the, and this is the key word, financial records destruction. Financial records destruction. I already said there'll be destruction of records. Whether it's a terrorist attack, whether an office fire occurred, whether something happened and we can't find them, we don't know what happened to the records. Records are gone. They're missing. They're destroyed. They're damaged. Not going to have them. Bottom line, we think we have all these things in place, all these rules and regulations, and you got to have this paperwork, and you got to... Office fire. Office fire. Say office fire, Ashley.
Office fire.
Say office fire.
Office fire.
Yep. You hugging kisses.
What is fire? What is fire?
Don't know. What's that?
That's fire. That's fire.
Mm-hmm. I got to finish doing my video. Go.
But I was in sleep.
Okay, say good night. Good night.
Okay.
So, the 3-for, he calls it, or the, like I said above, their plan is to get a 3-for-1 by having the fake Iranians. It's not really them attack. And he says 3-for equals prompt for U.S. to attack Iran and radiation against undersea enemies, plus radiation in air to kill off more of those annoying humans, at least from the powers that be perspective. We will end this summer timeline projection here. Another update is planned, written, and securely stashed, ready for posting as we reach a few key temporal markers. So what I just read you, he's telling you, I've got some more where that came from. I just need to see some temporal markers take place, which will let me know we're on that track. And since these A, B, and C just happened, then that means I can go ahead and release this next piece of the report because it's going to be on the money kind of thing. So we'll just have to sit back and wait, and as soon as he updates his site, I'll be doing another video. And we'll see where this goes. Take care.